Does Jonathan Kuminga want to be a Golden State Warrior?
The Warriors are the organization that drafted him. So, of course, he'd love to stay with one team his whole career. He wants to be a focal point of a team. He wants a bigger role. That's not really a secret. Is he open to coming back? He's digested it, and he's open-minded to it.
Aaron, I'm excited. I'm a fan, so I got to ask you the money question, and a lot of people want to know, does Jonathan Kuminga want to be a Golden State Warrior?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like a loaded question, and we can kind of talk about it. But, I talked about this yesterday on the podcast with Winters. I mean, the Warriors are first class, everything they do. So to say you don't want to play for the Warriors organization is, I don't know how you could say that, because it's, again, I have players on all different teams. It's first class, and there's a lot of different ways I can explain that. But the Warriors are phenomenal with how they treat guys, the family, like everything. So the organization, along with JK's relationship with Joe, I don't think there's any feeling of, I wouldn't want to play for the Warriors. I think, JK, of course, this is a guy, and I've said this, he works super hard. He really loves the game. A lot of guys say they really love it. That he loves it. You could ask his peers that. They know that. And he wants a chance to start every night, finish every night. He wants to be a focal point of a team. That's not a secret. That's something he works for. JK gets up, he's done this for 2 summers in a row. He'll wake up at 6 in the morning. You don't, to work out, he'll be on the court by 5:30 getting, work done. You don't do that to, not want more. And that's normal. And that's part of, he wants to grow. So does he want to be on the Warriors? He understands it, and he's open to it. And, the Warriors are the organization that drafted him. So, of course, he'd love to stay with one team his whole career. His favorite player, his idol is Kobe Bryant. That's what he did. If it's possible. But of course, he wants a bigger role. That's not really a secret. But is he open to coming back, and being all about what the next year is about, and understanding that he could get moved in a few months? Like, he's digested it, and he's open-minded to it.
How do you reconcile the obvious the obvious problem with Jonathan wants to be a focal point, but it seems clear that right here, right now, he just can't be or won't be with Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler on this team? Like, would he be willing to, quote unquote, wait? But address that complication, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think, okay, again, it's like we don't say to every guy that decides they want to go to a mid-major to start. Steph Curry went to Davidson, right? Instead of going to a Big Ten school that, that's wrong or not. Like, of course, he wants an opportunity to do more. But he's also understanding of, competing for a championship, what it means to be on the Warriors, and that he loves that. This is a guy, I think you saw that against Minnesota. He wants to play on the biggest stage. He wants to play against the best teams. He wants to play in big games. I think it's totally, and when you say playing with these guys, like, I think it's totally doable. He's open-minded to it. And, last year, not fair to Steve, not fair to him, there was so much pressure around, like, him joining when Jimmy had come. I mean, I've said this many times. Like, it took LeBron and D-Wade half a season to figure it out. JK didn't get any time to really figure out what was going on. He wasn't even 100%. I mean, he wasn't 100%. I would say now he's 100%. He wasn't even 100% in that Minnesota series. So, he needed some time. They need some time to just figure out how to play. I think Steve had that. I think when, Jimmy came here, JK didn't really understand, what that meant. Before JK got hurt, you got to remember, his usage was through the roof. He was really the focal point. I've heard a lot of people, say that, is JK a winning player, or did he help? I don't know where this narrative got spun, because, before Jimmy, when JK played last season, the Warriors were 18-14. And I could go way deeper, but I'm just going to keep it simple. Without JK, pre-Jimmy, they were 7-12. So it took a first ballot Hall of Famer, 6-time All-Star, all that to come in and stopgap what was happening, because the Warriors, where they were going. So I think, JK has the talent, and he respects Jimmy a ton. So I know he has the, I got to figure out how to play with Jimmy, because I don't think it's an issue of playing with Steph at all. If you look at Steph's numbers and JK's numbers the last couple of years, they're better when JK's on the floor with Steph. He knows how to play with Steph. Is he the perfect does he ever miss Steph here and there? Maybe it happens once in a while, but he knows how to play with Steph. He knows how to play with Draymond. I think the biggest variable is, can he figure out how to play with Jimmy? And I think he that first says, are you open-minded to play with Jimmy? And he's absolutely open-minded to play with Jimmy. Secondly is, I thought in the Minnesota series, although unfortunately, it was, you guys lost, but what I took out of that, what JK took out of that was, it really clicked for him, like, how to play with Jimmy. Like, he made strides in that. I know you guys, it was not necessarily the best series we lost, and it wasn't necessarily competitive after Steph went out, at least the 2 games in Minnesota. But there was a takeaway, if you really think about it, that he cracked some of the code to play with Jimmy. And I don't think plugging Steph back into that changes anything. That's just more shooting the best shooter in the world. I don't think that really makes it hard. I think it's the understanding of Jimmy operates in certain areas of the floor that JK wants to operate in, and he definitely wants to get to doing that more as his career goes on. But he's also not, he's understanding that, like, okay, I can adapt. I can cut off Jimmy more. Jimmy, Jimmy, one of the great things about Jimmy is, and I have other guys that have played with Jimmy in Miami, he's very, he's going to let guys be them. He's not a selfish guy at all. So it's more of just figuring out, when's Jimmy going to come to me? How do I take advantage of the mismatches Jimmy creates? Because, no one was doing that but JK pre-Jimmy. So it's something that I'm optimistic it could get figured out if he came back. And the fit, I think it can get figured out. It's not a clean fit. Steve's made that point. I'm not disagreeing with that. But I think it can get worked through.
Aaron, there's so many ingredients to this whole thing that makes it fascinating, right? And I get it, and I'm listening to you. But if I were to ask you right now, what's more important to JK, the money or the role on the team? How would you answer that?
I think it's clear. I mean, if he could prioritize, it's the role. But that's not really existent right now, right? Like, you can only get the role on the place that you can get to, and right now you can't get to those spots. So, yes, I mean, I think the fact that, he's very open-minded to Sacramento, to Phoenix, and some of the other teams that we've talked to says that. I mean, he wants a bigger role. No one's hiding from that. He's not hiding from that. But on any great team, right, somebody has to sacrifice. It's 100% needed to win at the highest level. And sometimes you got to do stuff you don't want to do, or necessarily, put your personal agenda behind you to win. So I think, the role would be the coveted thing for him, but that's just, at this moment, not an option.
Aaron Turner joining
Unless
us on
the Warriors do one of these 2 sign and trade. Sorry about that.
Right.
But, right now it's just not.
There's been a lot reported about the numbers and the parameters of the deal. Can you just, I'm just going to go through it quick. Can you just essentially either confirm or not that this is where you are? And then I want to ask about the player option. But is it basically true that the choices he's got right now are 1 year on the qualifying offer at 7.9? He could do a 2-year deal for 45 with a team option, 3 years for 54 with no options, and 3 years for 75 with a team option. You guys want a player option, and if you get the player option, you can move forward.
Yeah. I mean, that's right. I would put one wrinkle in there. The 1+1, inherently that deal allows you to have a no trade clause. Right. Because if you get traded, you lose your bird rights. So if he's able to keep that, we're also very open to that, because it's basically the same situation as now, except you just dipped around the base compensation rule, which has made, finding this trade a lot harder on all parties.
So can I ask, I think it's a little ironic that to ask for a player option, you need the player option to prove you're committed, which is a protection that can get you out anytime you want if it doesn't work out. I understand that, but why is this player option the biggest part of this right now for Jonathan and you?
Yeah, I think, we look at this as the player option for somebody who believes in himself, like JK, okay? And JK, 1 out of 10, his teammate, he believes in himself at a 10. There is no secret about that, of where he's going, his conviction. I mean, I always say you can't have a doubt in your mind if you have the confidence to go in and do what he did against Minnesota, because 99% of players can't do that after not playing 3 weeks. Your confidence is who knows where. And he comes into game 2, it's his first 9 shots like it's nothing. Like, yeah, okay, this is what I do. So the player option to him is super important, but it's really to us, we look at it as, okay, JK is clearly the guy that needs to sacrifice here for this to work. Okay, so that's fine. And he's passing up opportunities where they are saying to him, okay, I mean, BJ Armstrong made a strong comment to JK, like, we want you to be you. We don't want you to change a thing. Play your game, okay? He can't do that fully in Golden State. It will jam up what everything is going on. So you're sacrificing, your game. And again, another point is he's probably, we'll see how it goes, but there's a good chance he gets traded. Okay. There's a good chance he gets traded, and that's halfway through the year. And he has to go to some team that, he doesn't necessarily know which team that's going to be or what exactly that's going to entail.
Right.
So, when we look at those factors, and then just the fact that he's been there for 4 years and it's been up and down and up and down. When you look at all that, you go, okay, the player option is the signal to him that, like, make this work. And, for us, we view it as, okay, let's say, that, we see his market at a certain level right now, 24, 25. We could all argue about that or whatnot, but making sure that the team can stay under the second apron, no problem. We can help with that. Like, we'll give you more. We're not going to try to take away the flexibility on the front end because we understand how important it is to build a roster for the now, because this is a win now situation. So because of that, okay, fine, cool. JK, and I stated this yesterday, he early on in this process said, I could have came in and said, look, we want $30 million a year. Look at Jalen Johnson. We don't want to talk about anything else, but we talked about what was reasonable and practical. And, Al, he thinks could help. Steve has wanted a stretch five like this. It helps the combinations. It helps the spacing of Jimmy, Draymond, JK, and so JK was like, hey, I'm for it. Let's make sure we make that clear. And we're not going to try to push you above the second apron, but by making that sacrifice for the here, the now, take care of the back end with the player option. So that's why it's very important to us.